So, Evan Mulholland is with the IPA, and they put out a poll today that you've heard a lot of discussion about here on Sky News, but there was one thing about that poll that I wanted to talk to Evan about specifically, and he joins us now from Melbourne. How was your summer, Evan?
It was very nice, thank you, Paul.
Good man. Now, so let's have a look at some of the findings that, again, it's already been mentioned a few times across the day, but for those that are just tuning in for the after-dinner mint that is Paul Murray Live, you can see here that 71% of Australians support Australia Day being on the 26th. Let's race through some of these if we can. 11% disagree that, Australia is too politically correct, and so on and so on. You'll see all those things. But, Evan, what is absolutely clear? Be it, are you proud of Australia? When should the date be? Should we change the type and tenor of commemoration or celebration? It's about 10 to 13% that are always on the other side of it. That would be pretty much the Greens' primary vote. It is that cohort of people who are the same 10 to 13% who've been screaming on Twitter about the past month. It is the same 10 to 13% who scream about Australia Day. And it's about time that we were honest that they are the same people, not 10% here, 13% there, 12% hiding under the couch. It's the same 13.
Yeah, and it's quite clear that there's a noisy minority, especially on Twitter, and occupying most of our Canberra press gallery and mainstream media, that wants to talk down at Australia, that are ashamed about Australia. But, you know, it's the exact opposite. You know, 85% of people are proud to be Australian. The media will use a narrative, the argument for change of date is really big amongst young people. 57% of 18 to 24-year-olds want to celebrate Australia Day on 26th of January, and 82% of them are proud to be Australian. And what we're finding is that the younger generation are actually really patriotic. We're having record numbers of attendance in things like Anzac Day parades because people are actually really proud to be Australian. 71% of Australians are proud of our history. So I think what we can take from that is that people actually do acknowledge our shared history and the tragedies of our past, but also celebrate what's great about the British institutions that have made Australia great and what we have to celebrate about the future.
But also, Evan, I think the truth is that if Australia Day needed to evolve, it did a long time ago. If Australia Day needed to be repositioned, it did a long time ago. And I don't think anyone considers it to be a white pride festival. In fact, I think the ads that are currently on for the Australia Day Council are excellent. It's lots of people, lots of faiths, lots of beliefs. What do they all have in common? They live here, the greatest country on earth. If you're lucky enough to have been born here, have relatives that go all the way back or just a little bit back, or you're the first one here, welcome to the party.
And that says it all. There's a reason why thousands, tens upon thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people want to come to Australia every year, either legally or illegally, and there's a reason why Australia Day is the most popular day for citizenship ceremonies. It's quite clear that Australians support Australia Day being on 26th of January, and I saw some reports today that there was a drop since last year. Last year was 75% support instead of 71%, but the year before that was, we've done these polls over 3 years, the year before that was 70%. So and that number opposed has gone from 11% to 10% to 11%. So no one is, the no movement, the change of date movement is not increasing at all. They've plateaued and they're staying the same. So it is parallel with the Greens vote, and it's parallel with the same noisy activists we see on Twitter, we see in the press gallery that want to talk Australia down and are ashamed of our past and our history, and almost ashamed of the present. I think it's really sad.
Well, they all sit with the absolute benefits of modernity while turning around wanting to get rid of it. You can't have it both ways. Appreciate it, Evan. If you love freedom, get a membership. I'll gladly plug it. The IPA, all the best to you, Janet, Gideon and the team that are there. We'll talk plenty of times this year. Jenna Clark at the West Australian is their associate editor. You wrote about Australia Day, but wanting to come at it from a slightly different angle. Anything you want to say about Evan, or just make the point you did in the paper today?
No, I think the survey was quite interesting, and I think that kind of cemented my feelings in the column that I wrote in today's West Australian, is the fact that I think we collectively as a country are so proud of where we live and we want to relish in our history, but I think we just need to maybe use this day, as we do with Anzac Day and other great remembrance days that we have, to really focus on where we've come from and how we can make our country better. And I think looking specifically around what's happened on the East Coast throughout January and over the Christmas period, where there was so much horror and terror. I think we saw the best of Australian humanity, where we had people like Nick Kyrgios, Tony Abbott and Celeste Barber all pitching in, as well as, you know, the big top end of town who are also pitching in to help out people in need. That's the very best of our country, and I think if we can really harness that on that one specific day. And sure, I know that the Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Ken Wyatt, also backs things like mourning ceremonies on the 26th of January. That'd be great. I think I would personally love to attend one, just to learn a little bit more about our history and then really focus on how we can all move forward as a collective.
Well, Jenna, I remember interviewing Noel Pearson at an event, and his idea, and look, it's going to take a long time to get to this, but he believes that there should be sort of a double day recognition, where the 25th is about Indigenous Australia, 26th is about modern Australia. Great, I like that. I would also, in order to do that, or to have a Mabo Day, you've got to get rid of all the other stuff. Get rid of the sorry, get rid of the reconciliation. So basically we start to understand that my kids, future generations, they all know the country that they live in. They all know about the problems of the past, but those who want to sort of keep us perpetually in that fight, well, they're part of that activist 10, 13%, and that are always there. And they are the ones who are all on Twitter and all screaming at Sky News right now. If you can listen to them, their vegan voices can be heard.
I think that's also the really interesting point. I was doing a little bit of reading over the holidays, and especially you see a bit of similarity between the feminist debate and also us as an Australian collective moving forward. If you're just going to sit on Twitter and bitch and moan about things, and rather than get offline and actually pitch in and help out in the community, then continue doing that. But I think history will look at you poorly, because I think the vast majority of us are very proud of where we live, and we all want to move forward together and learn more about our multicultural, delicious culture that we have down here.
Bloody oath.